Yay, we're live. We're live. Hello, everybody. I'm Sherry Richert Belul, author of Say It Now 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the Most Important People in Your Life. And today we have MJ Fievre with us. Did I get that close?
Yes, that's totally fine.
I love it. You say it for us because you say it so beautifully.
MJ Fievre.
Yes. And MJ is author of Badass Black Girl. Do you have it? I love the cover. I love
Thank
the cover.
you.
Did you have a hand in that?
Um, well, I did help select it,
You,
but one of the designers at Mango is the one who suggested it. So,
yeah. So hold it up
among
again.
other choices.
Just hold it up again because I think it's a really beautiful cover. Yeah. And it's wonderful that we're here on Juneteenth, and we thought maybe you want to just say a couple words about it.
Sure. I mean, we've been celebrating Juneteenth for a while, and I'm excited that now it's getting the recognition that it deserves because a lot of people had no idea what it was. Um, so, for the people who don't know what it is, it's basically um, the celebration of the freedom of Black people in the United States because after the Declaration of Emancipation, it took a little while for all the states to actually hear about it and apply it. And Juneteenth is the day when um, officially everywhere in the United States, Black people were finally free.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I'm glad we started off with just a tiny moment of acknowledging that, and I too, I agree. Like, I love that it's been talked about so much. And in fact, companies starting to make it a national holiday. And, it's a great, yeah. So let's talk about your book, which
Yes.
I'm so thrilled. I was telling you earlier, I was telling you earlier before we went live that one of the things I love so much about it is that it feels to me like it's from a beloved aunt, just sharing, but not preaching, but sharing. And I'd love to hear um, why this book, why'd you write it? Tell us the story.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in Port-au-Prince in Haiti. And growing up, it was very difficult to find books that I could find myself in.
Mhm.
A lot of the books that we read came from either Europe, Canada, and other Francophone countries, but Haiti didn't have a system in place where we could produce books. So all the books that I read didn't have that many Black people in them. So I've always wanted not just in fiction, but also find a book that would talk specifically to me. I
Yeah.
didn't have that chance. Later on, when I became a teacher, I spent 8 years in middle school. I became the organizer of several clubs at the school, and a lot of the students were from other countries, and a lot of them were also either from the Caribbean or they were African American. And we were having those very difficult conversations about quote unquote otherness, about what it is to be a person of color in the United States. And I would have those conversations about the parents too. And I always wish that I could have that one guide, particularly for the girls, because they're the ones who really come to you and confide in you. The boys did too, but I had a special connection with the girls because I grew up as a Black girl in
Yeah.
Haiti.
Yeah.
So it was really important for me to be able to have a book like this later on when I really started writing nonfiction to be able to be of service to the girls who don't necessarily have a book that is just for them.
I love that so much. And I'm going to post a link below our video where people can buy the book. But will you also speak to, because one of the things I was charmed by, um, there's letters, there's quotes, there's lists, there's interaction. Like, can you speak a little bit to how you came up? It feels so alive to me.
I mean, I am an aunt. I have nieces and nephews, and having been a teacher, I've been in that position so many times where I could impart some of my wisdom based on what I've been through, and sometimes I could also get challenged because kids are really smart and they'll will ask the right questions. And while I was writing the book, it was so much easier for me to get inspired when I thought about my students or when I thought about the young girl that I used to be. So, letter writing was definitely an easy tool for me to use in order to get those creative juices flowing. And I found that it just works, being able to address that badass black girl who is the reader and who's learning from me, but with the acknowledgement that they also have something to bring to the table because we're learning from each other.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So, two questions popped in at the same time. First one, are you a badass black girl? Like, is that how you felt as a young woman?
I did. I mean, life wasn't easy. I come from a very difficult country, from a very complicated family, and then I had to leave it all behind and find myself in a country that was totally foreign to me. And I just back then I had that drive, I had that motivation that um, kept me together, and I do consider myself a badass black girl. As I grew older, um, things changed a little, but I mean, I would say that I'm still a badass black woman. Uh, but I'll let people decide. At this stage, it's a little weird to call myself one, but I
I,
definitely was badass when I was younger.
I do have to tell you, I don't know if you can see the comments, but I do. And people are definitely thumbs up that yes, you are. So,
Oh, thank you.
can you see? Can you see Annette and Yadira and
Hi,
Bridget and Nita?
hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.
I love that. I love it. Well, and the other question that dropped in is I don't know how old your nieces are, but I was curious about how did they respond to the book?
My youngest niece is 9.
Okay.
So she was really eager to read a book that is not necessarily her age level because it's really for kids 12 to 16. And we did have a few conversations about the book. At the start of the pandemic, we even started having some public chats, and we put them on Facebook where we were just chatting about different things. And it all came about after she started asking me about the book. And they're so clever at that age. I mean, she had so much insight that I wanted to be able to have those conversations and get other people involved and ask questions. So, yeah, it's been a great experience sharing it with people in my family. And other parents reach out to me sometimes to tell me about the conversations they're having at home with the kids because they found my book, or someone might have bought it as a gift. So it's been good. It's been really inspiring, and I feel that um, I'm relevant because I'm doing something that's useful.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking back to the story that you told about being a middle school teacher, and wishing that you had, resources, like more resources. And so I'm curious about that piece. I'm hoping that people listening, that we have parents listening and also some teachers. Is this a book? Have teachers taken advantage of having this book in their classroom?
Absolutely, and I know that some public libraries actually um, made the book readily available. The other day, I received a notice from a library in Cincinnati. If people can check it out for free if you have the library card. I know that a lot of people are definitely buying the book because they want to educate um, teenagers and twins, without necessarily being a parent themselves, but they are educators and they want to be able to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, and let's go to there was I told you there were a few parts that just really I stood out for me, and I know you probably have some that you would like to share. But would you share the reasons to was it reasons to love a black girl? Is that right?
Well, yes, yes, it's reasons why I love being a black girl.
Yes.
And that's a part that was very important to me. So it's in the book. It's called 100 plus reasons to love being a badass black girl. And the reason why it was so important is because growing up, I was getting conflicting messages. So it was difficult to be a black girl in the late 80s and 90s because particularly in Haiti, since I did not grow up in the US, it was just, well, whatever is not black is better. And I had to kind of learn that that message wasn't true. There is a lot of colorism in Haiti, so they might tell you, yeah, well, it doesn't make sense what you're saying because we're all black and we would never put ourselves down. But yes, there were those that perception that the blacker you were, the more looked down you were looked upon. So
Wow.
the more down you were looked upon. Sorry.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I grew up with that message that, well, if you don't look like this, then you're not sexy, you're not beautiful. If you're not this kind of person, you're not intelligent. But at the same time, I had a very nurturing mom who made me feel like I was the best thing since sliced bread. So trying to kind of balance those two. And I really started appreciating because of her who I was, and it was easy for me to find all those reasons why not just me but all the girls like me were fantastic. And some of those reasons, for instance, is that we're very resilient. We've been used to people telling us that we're never going to be enough, so we've learned to be enough for ourselves and not for others. We've learned that yes, we are intelligent, despite what anybody says. And there are some other practical things too, like resilience when it comes to not people's perception, but situations. In being a minority in the US, being living in a country as difficult as Haiti, you learn to be self-reliant. There's no electricity. Well, we're going to find a way to live our day without having to have light, or there's no other, well, we'll find a way to we'll find another way to make things happen. So all this really got me thinking, and I studied a list. I was just brainstorming a list of all the things that are so great about us, and things such as our brilliance, our collective perseverance and strength, our sense of humor. Because one thing I've learned about growing up black, if you cannot learn to make fun of yourself, if you cannot learn to make fun of those situations you're in, you've got something else coming, because life can be very harsh. So whenever I was in a situation where I should have been devastated, I learned to just, you know what, let's make fun of it and just move on. So a lot of what's on that list are traits that I've identified in other Black women, or that I had to embrace for myself,
Yeah.
because I just wanted to be happy. And in order to be happy, you need to celebrate all your blessings.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking now, I mean, I love hearing you talk about this, is always the joy, right? To have an author talk about her work. To me, there's such a thrill in that. And to hear you talk about something that, I really loved reading, but to hear you talk about sort of more behind it is so, oh, it's just so wonderful and so energizing. And as you were talking, I was thinking like, wow, that would make a great like mural on the wall, right? Like just all of those things. Yeah. And it also reminded me of another part of what you've done in the book that I love, which is it's not all just this like it's not all just like Pollyanna, like, hey, love yourself, you're so great. It's there's so much, so many levels to it that I feel as if you tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that you lay this foundation for self-esteem, but then there's introspection, and then there's also these layers of like, hey, here's what you might be up against, which I really appreciated. Can you want to speak a little bit about that, all those layers that you have?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I love uh, inspirational books. I love books that when you're feeling really down, you just grab and they help you feel better. But I think that this book is more than just pick me up when you're having a bad day. I wanted to give lessons that people could learn any day. So that also includes a, staying realistic and being able to ask questions, not just from about the world, but about the way we think and the way we act. So I touch very difficult topics, and I invite the reader to think about things such as why do we have so many black men in prison, for instance, and trying to find the reasons, not just what the fact that there is systemic racism, but also the kind of way that we raise our kids in black communities. And other questions such as what about teen pregnancy? There is this a stereotype that black women tend to be a little easier and that we tend to get pregnant earlier. And I invite the reader to think about those things. Are they true? Have you really researched? And if it is a real problem, if it's not just a stereotype, um, what is happening? So I don't always give the answer to those questions because I really want the kids to be
Yeah.
able to open up to their parents as well and have those difficult conversations. So I often give them references, places they can go and get the information because a lot of those answers they have to find from them for themselves. So whether it's something that has to do with the system in which we live or the way we are raised, the way our family is constituted, we need to be able to question what's happening and whether and figure out whether we have all the information we need for um, to make great decisions about our future.
Right. And that's just bringing up for me something that I really want to acknowledge about you as a writer that I didn't get until you just said that, but that it's like, um, the book I would project is it's so trustworthy because it's an invitation as much as it is guidance. You do guide, but it's also that invitation for these young women to think for themselves. And I feel like there's something in that that is super powerful, especially for young people, not to just be told, but you're inviting them into a process.
I mean, absolutely, because I remember growing up, I questioned everything.
Yeah.
And I really disliked it when an adult pretended to know everything. Because even as a kid, I was aware that there is no way that anyone knows everything. And also, it became clear to me very early because of the kind of family environment I grew up with, in that parents were verifiable. They are not perfect. Some things they don't know how to express, and sometimes they just don't have the solution to a problem. So I didn't want to be that kind of writer who is 100% prescriptive. Do this, do that. I mean,
Yeah.
what do I know? I know some things because I've been around for a while. I've been thinking about things for a while. I've been talking to other people about things for a while. But do I know everything? Absolutely not. And I want people to be able to go into um, to do some introspection and find the answers for themselves, and then question um, the questions and the answers that they encounter so that they can embark on a journey that is really productive and life affirming so that they can think for themselves and they can be really aware of everything they're getting, those wrong messages that they're getting from other people, from the media, all those messages about hate, whether it's self-hate or hating other groups. I mean, come on, it needs to stop, and this needs to start at home. We need to educate our kids. Our kids need to educate themselves so that the world can really change. And I mean, a lot is happening right now, and there is so much to think about, so many different messages that we're getting. We need to be able to find our center as educators, as parents, as teenagers, and really think about what we want to do next.
Oh, that was so beautifully said. And it was great because as you were speaking about all this, Kim is here, fellow author, who says, adding your book to my reading list and sharing it with my daughters.
Oh, thank you, Kim.
Yeah, I love that. And Annette was echoing, celebrate all your blessings, which is also so beautiful. Yeah, and wow. I'm appreciating, again, when did you publish this book? When?
In January of this year.
Oh, I mean,
So
but it's interesting, like, because it feels, it would have been relevant at any given moment in time, right? But it feels to me like it's so super relevant right now. Like
absolutely.
yeah. Well, and I'm curious, MJ, what about you? Like, are there some favorite parts or parts that you feel like you really wanted to talk about today?
Um, you mentioned earlier about the fact that there are different sections where I'm inviting the reader to kind of think about those difficult questions. And one thing that has been really weighing down on on me lately is the fact that a lot of people think that the solution to ending the hate that there's been in this country against Black people is more hate. And I just feel that the book talks a little bit about the importance of being truthful to yourself. What kind of world you want to create for yourself? So many times I feel, for instance, that um, being I'm gonna call it pro-black, uh, recognizing that people of color deserve the same as anyone else, that we deserve respect, that we deserve to be recognized for what we do. We deserve to be seen as people as opposed to as other. Well, the reverse of that is being completely anti everything else. And I've noticed that there's been this animosity among groups, like, well, if you don't think like I do, you're probably racist and you're bad, and I'm gonna hate you because
Mm.
you're not thinking the same. And it's a trend that I have seen on social media. You're either um, um, you're either going to acknowledge that I am a human being, um, and if you question anything that I say, well, I hate you. And I don't think that
Mm.
uh, and I'm probably not expressing it very well. I'm not saying that you should accept if someone considers you less. That's not what I mean. But I mean that being pro-black is not being anti everything else, and um, it's something that has been on my mind, where there is so much hate toward other groups, and people are not really defining who they're talking about. If they go on social media, for instance, and they say, "Oh, Black people." Well, who are you to talk about all Black people? I don't know you, but you're making all those statements about all Black people because you're not specifying, and I'm not finding myself in some of the statements. Or when they say, "Oh, white people," I'm like, who are you talking about? Because I am surrounded by allies, people who are actually really helping with the movement that's happening right now. So just being careful about the way we use words. And there is a part in the book about that, about being very mindful of the way you express your ideas. And that's what I mean by the hate that I feel, where people are putting others in packages, in boxes, and saying, oh, white people this, black people this. And I'm like, no, there is a way in the middle where we can talk, and we can find, um, we can agree on some stuff. Being pro-white doesn't mean being anti-black. Being pro-black doesn't mean being anti-white. It's about conversation, about
Wow.
communication.
You said that beautifully. Like, yeah, I mean, what I love about what you're saying is that it feels to me, whenever we generalize, whenever we box people, it does set up kind of an us and them situation,
Right.
which doesn't seem like the greatest place for, for cooperative growth together, because um, it just sets up, like you're saying, I guess, what we really want well, I'll speak for myself, like this idea of, really, to me, like, oh, we're all in this together, like let's really make some change together. And when we're set up us against them, it's really, that can be hard.
Right. I mean, we have to recognize that the past was terrible. Things have happened in this country that are, when I was a kid and learning about slavery, I mean, it was unthinkable. I don't remember how old I was when I started learning about slaves, and the whole colonial system. I think I must have been in first grade, because we learned about it very early in Haiti. And I remember my shock. I went home asking my mom, what is this? I need the clarification, because I understand what I'm reading, or what is being read to me, but I don't understand. My mind couldn't grasp it. So a lot of horrible things have happened, and there needs to be some kind of reparation, because the system has continued. Some people might not consider themselves racist, but we do live in a system that is still racist.
Yeah.
So there needs to be change. There needs to be reparation. But I don't think that it's constructive when we're just when we're just hateful toward people who are trying to help. And I find that a lot of my friends will ask a question. A lot of my friends who are not people of color, they will ask a question maybe on social media, or they really want to know about what they can do to help with the movement, with the protest. And very often you'll find people being very mean to them, saying, well, blaming them for the past. I mean, yes, the past is terrible, but the people you're talking to right now are trying to be allies. And it's been sad. And at the same time, um, hearing what people I think would be allies, what they're saying behind closed doors, when they think that maybe I'm not listening, or when they forget that I am in the room. And it's just a terrible situation all the way, all over the place. And I think that people really need to keep themselves in check, and really think about what kind of world we want to leave for the future generations.
Oh, can you say that again? What?
Absolutely. I'll never say it enough. Think about it. I don't have kids, so it's not. I have nothing to lose, really. Once I'm gone, I'm gone. But your future generations, for those of you with kids, who have to worry about the kind of world you're living for them, uh, for whom it's not just about leaving a legacy the way it is with me. You have actual human beings who have to pick up after you. What kind of world are you going to leave them? And are you having the right conversations? Whether you're white, whether you're black, whatever race you are, we need to talk about race. It needs to be a conversation that happens all the time, and it needs to be centered about togetherness and being able to exist together, occupy the same space.
Uh, it's you're obviously, I mean, I love that you're an educator, you're a teacher, right? You're just such a, a beautiful teacher. And I I know that there might be people who are seeing this that haven't read your book, and I encourage it for everyone. It's not just a book for teens. It's not just a book for teenage girls. I really think that there's so much in there, all these things we're talking about, and that you just so beautifully said, which is about how are we thinking? What questions are we asking? And then are we asking questions about the answers we give ourselves? Like all of that to me, it's so like you really go way beyond just the surface. And I think your book is really helping us to learn how to see things anew, how to question, and how to seek what's true for ourselves, and like you just said, and for the world.
And I'm going to share an anecdote. It's not
Okay.
necessarily directly linked to the book, but it's linked up to the fact that we have to question what we think. We have to, and we have all the time. For instance, if you had ever told me that I discriminated against anybody, I would have told you that's ridiculous. I am black. I'm being discriminated against all the time. But I'm like, I know all about not discriminating against anybody. And then I was dating, right? And this white man sends me a message because I was dating online, and I rolled my eyes. I'm like, why is this white dude even sending me a message? We have nothing in common. There's nothing I want to learn from him. There's nothing he could possibly like about me. And then I realized, oh my God, I never knew this about me because I never questioned how I saw other people. And I realized that I never saw a white man as someone I could ever be with. And if it's not discrimination, what is it? It's like I never even looked at a white man to say, oh, he's cute or he's not cute or he's attractive. Is I never even looked at them because I never saw them as any potential in relationships or nothing. And there was something wrong with that. The fact that I could just roll my eyes and look at me 5 years later, we're married, and I've never been so happy in my life because I decided, okay, I'm going to answer because I need to stop. I was discriminating against him
Wow.
just because he was white. So there is discrimination um, all around, and we need to question ourselves and know that we don't know everything, and we're not as great sometimes as we think, or open-minded
Yes.
as we think we are.
Right. Oh, I've loved this conversation because I think, the word blind spots is coming up as you're talking. It's like, I think it's so hard to see our own blind spots, which I think is part of when, as a society, there's a lot of questioning going on in your book, asking these sort of public questions. I think that helps us. It just helps us see what we can't see, and to learn and grow. And wow. Oh, I love this. Bridget just said, questioning what we think is so important.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, Bridget. So I've loved talking to you, and I'm so the time has flown by.
Yes.
Is there anything you want to leave us with that you feel you haven't had a chance to say, or that you just want to leave us with an underscore?
I mean, I just want to say, buy the book. I mean, support me, support my publisher, and I mean, the reaction to this book has been overwhelming, and parents have been buying it for their kids, and also people have been buying it as a graduation present. People were not a black, were not girls. They've been buying it and offering it to people who they think might be a good audience for this book. Um, a lot has been put into this. I, I'm just bringing a little piece of my experience to the world, and I hope you guys will support me, support Mango, and buy the book. And thank you so much for this conversation,
Uh,
Sherry. It was great to see you and interact with the people who are connected.
I know. I want to say one last thing that just dropped in when you were saying that. I just realized it's Father's Day this weekend.
It
What a
is.
beautiful thing for fathers to gift their daughters with this book. I like to think a lot like on Mother's Day, like my gratitude to my son. And if there's any fathers out there or any mothers who want to, like, nudge someone to do that, I just think it would be a beautiful gift for Father's Day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If I don't say so myself.
I'm going to post the link in here, and I hope we get a chance to do this again. I love everything you're about, and I too, please buy MJ's book and spread the word. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for being here.